All right, so get this, everyone. We are going like deep today into Transformers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've been sending in all this stuff about them like crazy lately.
Yeah.
And like, especially with ChatGPT blowing up, it feels like they're kind of everywhere now. And you've sent over some really cool stuff about it.
Yeah, super interesting.
So that's what we're going to unpack today.
Absolutely.
And help you get, like, what's the big deal, you know?
Sure.
And no going super technical here.
Right.
We'll keep it fun and, you know, make sure you actually understand it.
That's the goal.
Okay, so first things first, like, what are these things, Transformers?
Yeah.
I keep picturing, you know, robots that turn into cars.
Uh-huh.
But something tells me that's not quite right.
Yeah, you and everyone else. It's funny, right? But and AI, Transformers are like a totally different beast.
Okay.
Think of them like master chefs in this crazy busy kitchen.
Okay.
Instead of making each dish one by one, you know, like those older AI models did.
Right.
They can see like all the ingredients and all the orders all at once.
Whoa.
And they figure out the fastest way to get like everything done all at the same time.
Wow. So it's like they're like chopping veggies and stirring a sauce and like keeping an eye on the oven all at once.
Exactly.
Whoa.
It's all about that parallel processing.
Okay.
It's thanks to this thing called self-attention. And that is why they are so powerful.
Ah, okay.
Like they can handle so much information, like tons of it. And they can find these really complex patterns like we can't even imagine.
So that's how ChatGPT can sound so human.
Exactly.
In your sources.
Yeah.
You mentioned this study that found that when a company started using a transformer-powered chatbot for customer support,
right,
their customer satisfaction went up like 20%.
Huge.
It's like the chatbot suddenly became so much better at talking to people.
Like they actually got it.
Yeah, and way less robotic.
For sure.
And, you know, all the sources said that Transformers were this huge breakthrough for language.
Absolutely.
Like they're making translations super accurate.
Totally.
And doing things like summarizing these huge documents in like seconds. But it's not just words anymore, right?
Nope, they've busted out way beyond language.
Okay.
One of the sources even talked about vision transformers.
Vision transformers.
Yeah, and how they're like challenging these old image recognition models.
Wow.
It's like they learned how to see.
Okay, so instead of just understanding like text, they can actually see and understand pictures.
Exactly.
That's wild.
That's what makes them so cool. Like the potential is just massive.
Yeah.
You know, one of your sources even talked about how vision transformers are helping doctors.
Oh, wow.
Analyze medical scans, you know, and helping them catch certain types of cancer. Wow. Like way more accurately.
So cool. Okay, so now I have to ask about these encoders and decoders.
Yeah.
I saw those in your sources, and they sound kind of like from a spy movie to me.
Right.
Can you break this down for us, like in a simple way?
Sure.
No crazy jargon.
No jargon.
Okay.
So remember that chef thing we were talking about?
Yeah, the master chef.
So let's say we're using a transformer to translate like an article from English to Spanish.
Okay.
The encoder is like this chef who like carefully reads and analyzes that English text,
right?
Which is the input data, you know,
right?
Breaking it down into its core parts,
and
really understanding the relationships between the words and phrases.
So the encoder is like prepping all the ingredients before the cooking starts.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I get it. But
where does the decoder come in?
That's where the magic happens.
Okay.
The decoder is like the chef who takes all those prepped ingredients and starts putting together the final dish, which is the output.
Right.
So in our translation example, the decoder takes that encoded information from the English and uses it to create the Spanish translation.
So if the encoder is reading the recipe,
the decoder is actually cooking the meal.
You got it.
Wow, okay.
And remember that self-attention thing?
Yeah.
That's super important here, too.
Okay.
It lets the transformer focus on, like, the most important parts of the input data and use that understanding to create the output.
Gotcha.
Whether it's that translation or a summary or even, like, a brand new image.
So this attention thing is like the chef knowing that the main ingredients are way more important than, like, a pinch of salt or something.
Exactly.
Oh, that makes sense. So the transformer understands the whole context and how everything's connected. Okay, so we've got this parallel processing, which is amazing for efficiency.
Right.
But how does the transformer remember the order of the words in a sentence? If it's looking at everything at once,
right?
Wouldn't it get all jumbled up?
That's a great question, and That's where it gets really clever. They use this thing called positional encoding.
Positional encoding.
Yeah. It's kind of like they add timestamps to each word.
Timestamps.
Yeah. So even though it's looking at everything at the same time, it still knows the order of the words. It keeps everything in the right sequence.
So it's like our chef has a mental clock. That tells them when each ingredient went in.
Right.
And make sure the dish comes out perfect.
Exactly.
It's crazy how these things can juggle so much information.
I know. It's mind-blowing.
And keep it all straight. But, okay, so why should we care?
Right. Good question.
Why are transformers such a big deal for you and me?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it?
Like, we can talk about all the technical stuff, but it's the real world impact that matters.
Absolutely. And that's where your sources get really interesting.
Right.
You highlighted how transformers are already changing things.
Yeah.
In like customer service, healthcare, even creative fields.
Exactly. That article about the online retailer.
Yeah.
That used transformers to personalize product recommendations.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Apparently their sales went way up.
Yeah. They're like marketing masters now.
Right. It's crazy. And remember those super accurate translations?
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to learn a new language.
Right. You mentioned that.
And I always struggle with those, like, you know, idiomatic expressions.
Yeah, those are tricky.
And it seems like the regular translation tools just miss the nuance.
Totally. And one of your sources talked about this company that developed a translation app using transformers. And it's specifically designed to capture those idioms and cultural references.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a personal tutor in your pocket?
Exactly.
That would be amazing. Imagine traveling and actually understanding the jokes and stuff.
Right.
It would be a whole new level of cultural immersion.
Totally. And it's not just about understanding language. You highlighted an article about how they're using transformers to generate different types of text.
Oh, yeah.
Like poems, code scripts, musical pieces.
It was mind-blowing.
Even emails and letters.
It's like they're tapping into some kind of creative energy.
Right.
But is it really creativity? Or are they just copying patterns from the data they've been trained on?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Some experts think AI can be truly creative.
Yeah.
Others say it's just really good imitation. But no matter what you believe, transformers are pushing the limits of what's possible with creative expression.
For sure. Okay, let's talk about those vision transformers again.
Okay.
You mentioned they're being used in healthcare to look at medical scans.
Yeah.
You even highlighted a study that found they could detect some types of cancer with like 95% accuracy.
It's amazing.
Right?
That's incredible.
It just shows how powerful they are at analyzing complex visual data and finding the important information.
And healthcare is just one area.
Yeah.
You were also interested in how they're being used in self-driving cars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I read an article about how they're using them to improve object detection.
Yeah.
And they say it's making the cars way safer.
Fewer accidents.
Exactly, because the cars can see and understand the road better.
Precisely. They're making self-driving cars more reliable.
Right. And like you said, they're being used in all sorts of other stuff, too.
Tons of stuff.
Security systems that analyze video footage, e-commerce platforms that can identify and categorize products.
It's amazing.
It's like we're giving machines a whole new way to see the world.
I know, right?
And it opens up all these possibilities.
So many possibilities.
It's like we're seeing the birth of a new kind of AI.
It feels that way.
Where machines don't just process information.
Yeah.
They can actually perceive and interact with the world.
Yeah.
Like we do.
It's a paradigm shift for sure.
This is all so exciting, but we should probably talk about some of the challenges.
Yeah, of course.
And limitations, you know, that you mentioned in your sources.
Right.
That there are concerns about things like data bias and the potential for misuse.
Yeah, we have to be careful.
So how do we make sure that these transformers are used to help people?
Right.
And not to harm them?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's complicated. There's no easy answer.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of different people working together.
Okay.
Researchers, policymakers, the public. We need clear guidelines for developing ethical AI.
Okay.
And we need to be transparent and accountable.
Right.
And we need to keep talking about the potential risks and benefits.
It sounds like we need a global conversation.
I think so.
About how to navigate this new territory.
Yeah, we're venturing into the unknown.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, but also exciting.
True. Okay, so before we get too philosophical, I'm curious about your thoughts on the future of Transformers.
Well, one thing's for sure, they're here to stay.
Yeah.
And their impact is only going to get bigger.
Okay.
we can expect to see even more amazing applications.
Like what?
In healthcare, education, finance, entertainment, you name it.
Wow.
Imagine personalized medicine based on your DNA.
Whoa.
Customized learning that adapts to your learning style.
That would be amazing.
Hyper-realistic virtual worlds.
Okay, now you're just blowing my mind. It sounds like we're on the verge of a technological revolution.
I think we are.
That could change everything about how we live and work.
And how we see the world.
But I still feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to discover.
What other crazy innovations are right around the corner?
What is this?
What secrets are these transformers still hiding?
Yeah, it really feels like we're on the edge of something huge, like a whole new world, you know, in one of your sources.
Yeah.
There was this quote that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
That transformers are not just a technological innovation. They're a catalyst for a new era of human-machine collaboration.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
You know, I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's not about machines taking over.
It's about humans and machines working together.
Okay.
To do things that neither could do on their own.
That makes sense.
Like imagine doctors.
Yeah.
Using AI tools to diagnose diseases way more accurately.
Right.
Or architects using algorithms to design these amazing buildings.
Yeah. And in another one of your sources, they talked about using transformers to analyze climate data.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
And help scientists understand and predict climate change.
It's like we finally have the tools to tackle these massive problems.
Exactly.
That's what I find so exciting about all this.
Yeah.
It has so much potential to make us smarter and help us make better decisions.
It's like expanding our minds.
Exactly.
I love that, expanding our minds. But of course, with any new tech, there are always challenges.
Of course.
You know, we talked about data bias earlier.
Right.
How do we make sure these AI systems are fair?
That's the key question. And one way is to be really careful about the data we use to train the models. Yeah. We need to make sure it's diverse and represents the real world.
So it's not just about giving them more data.
Right.
It's about giving them the right kind of data.
Exactly.
Data that reflects how diverse and complex the world really is.
Absolutely. And we also need safeguards.
Okay.
And ways to hold them accountable. We have to be able to audit these systems.
Yeah.
And understand how they're making decisions.
Right.
And correct any bias we find.
So it sounds like there's a lot of responsibility on the people who are developing and using these systems.
For sure. But we all have a role to play.
Yeah, right. What can regular people do
to make sure this technology is used ethically?
Yeah, for the good of everyone.
I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Okay.
Learn about AI.
Yeah.
Ask questions and be part of the conversation.
Right.
The more we understand about it, the better we can guide its development.
So it's not about becoming AI experts ourselves.
Right.
It's about being curious and willing to learn.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to speak up.
Okay.
If you see something that seems wrong or unfair, demand answers, demand change.
This tech is still so new.
It is.
We have a chance to shape its future.
We do.
But it's going to take all of us working together.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have.
From how transformers work to the huge impact they're having.
It's mind-blowing.
We've talked about their amazing potential to change everything from healthcare to climate science.
For sure.
We also talked about the need to be responsible.
Right. Ethical development is key.
I hope our listeners leaving today feeling not just informed, but also like inspired and ready to be part of this.
That too.
We've learned that transformers are more than just a new technology.
Yeah.
They have the power to change our world.
And it's up to us to shape that future.
Exactly. It's in our hands to use this technology for good.
To make a better world.
And on that note, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Wow, what a ride.
We hope you enjoyed this exploration of transformers.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And remember, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking those big questions.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.